What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I wanna comment on Ryan Clark and what he had to say about Shannon Sharpe and this situation that Shannon Sharpe finds himself in. Um, these allegations that Shannon Sharpe found himself fighting. And I thought, like you got a lot of people that are supporting Shannon Sharpe, and then you have a lot of people who are really, really just telling Shannon Sharpe that basically this is all your fault. Like this situation that you find yourself in is a situation that you have really created yourself. And I think Ryan Clark falls on that side of things. Like, this is mainly your fault. You are the one who put yourself in this position. And so I'm gonna with that being said, I want to play this audio, man. Then I'm gonna come back and comment on this audio that Ryan Clark said, because I think he made he made some good points on here.
And all of it, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Ryan here.
To whom much is given, much is required, right? And once you reached a certain stature, it's like the old folks always used to tell you, boy, don't let that money go to your head, right? And now, a lot of times, people just are who they are. And you're looking at Shannon, his brand has never really been anything that said he might not be into some of the things that we're learning, right? You could go back to the IG Live, or you could listen to some of the things that he promotes.
So, and you know what? I never really looked at it like that, right? I'm gonna stop right there real quick, but I never really looked at it like that, right? Like some people, their brand, because like they have an image that they have like a squeaky clean brand, but with Shannon Sharpe, and not that everybody have to be that, but should people have really been surprised about like what Shannon Sharpe, what he's going through? Number one, that like these type of allegations have always been a part of his history ever since he's been, even with in professional sports. I mean, in professional football, he's found himself in these type of situations. When he worked for Fox, there have been rumors that there have been these type of situations. And so now Ryan Clark is going to get into like even some of the things that you promote. Like when you promote certain things that you promote, far as your brand, it just let people know that what you are as a person, like what you're about as a person. And so Ryan Clark is going to speak to that in this next statement.
Sponsors of his show, or just certain ways he talks about women during nightcap or whatever it is, right? Like, Unc ain't never hid that. And that's not illegal, though, right? And like I said, people are going to feel how they feel about the age gap and what that means to them, right? My preference isn't that. If I have, and I do have a 20-year-old daughter, my preference for her, my advice to her, the things that I will and will not be comfortable with for her aren't that, right? I wouldn't be comfortable with my daughter who is 20 dating someone his age, but that's also not illegal. When you start getting tied into some of the things he is being charged with, accused with, or has allegedly done, no man wants to be associated with those things that's not his intent and that's not his heart. And so
whoa, now that's a strong statement. So he's saying if that's not your heart and that's not your intent, you don't want to be charged with these things, right? And so, like I said before on different, different podcasts, that like that those type of situations to certain men, like that's a nightmare to be charged in that type of, to have these kind of allegations, especially for people who don't present themselves that way. So if you don't present yourself in that way, in the way where you are like a womanizer, or you date younger women, and with you, like you chasing women up and down the street, and then you get caught up in this kind of situation, that would be a nightmare to most people, because you don't want to be associated with those type of allegations because that's just not your lifestyle. But Shannon Sharpe on his show always talk about women in a certain way. He always, talk about dealing with different women and stuff like that. So you can't do anything but hold Shannon Sharpe accountable and just, um, if Shannon Sharpe had people who wanted to see him, wanted to see his downfall, he also put himself in this predicament, like whether it was somebody famous, somebody an enemy he had in the industry, or somebody who wanted to see his downfall because of the way he run around with different women, and he put himself out there like that. That's why it could have been a setup. Now I'm not saying that it was a setup, but he would have been somebody who was easy to set up because he let it be known that he liked younger women. He's not faithful to any one woman. So he's just he's food. He's that was the chink in his armor, and that's the way that somebody, they could have gone after him if they wanted to. But I'm gonna get to some more of Ryan Clark's his comments on Shannon Sharpe.
My biggest thing for him is if these aren't actions that are of him, I hope that he's cleared of them. Right. And then for the young lady, if these are things that has happened to her, you hope that she's able to process that and in some way feel like she has been not only compensated, but that she has sought and found the justice that she's looking for. But it's like you said, period. It's just a bad look. Whether it's the text messages, whether it's the voice messages, whatever it is, it's a bad look. And it's a testimony for these young men who are getting their name called tonight to keep your nose clean, watch your front, watch your back, and surround you with people who truly support you. That's your family, that's your friends, that's the woman or significant other you choose. Because those people, a lot of times, will bring you down more than you'll bring yourself down. And I think that that's what we're kind of witnessing here. A man who's at the height, talking about getting $100 million deal, and now you're dealing with this. It's about decision making, bro.
That's what it is.
So I like that comment from him because even when Shannon Sharpe said, he said, I'm a step away from ESPN and I'm going to focus more on, with my family and friends, right? It should have been about family and friends the whole time, and somebody, like a significant other who can kind of ground Shannon Sharpe. And people think that because they have money that they are not, like you don't answer to anybody. Like you can go out here and he's not, I'm sure he's not the only person with that, Sharpe. He's connected to a family. He has sisters. He has, daughters and stuff like that. So you don't want to be attached to these type of allegations. You don't want to be, you don't want to talk about women publicly or at all, like in a disparaging, like, like you just ripping and running up and down the street with different women. You don't want your daughters and your sisters to see you in that light. And so I couldn't understand why, like on his show, he would always talk about women like this. He's who else? Like Monique came on his show and told him that he didn't need a younger woman. He needed somebody who was good for him, somebody who would was on his level more so mentally, like on his level. Even Chad Ochocinco was telling him that he could find somebody for him that was more on his level and was good for what he had going on. And so I thought that was important. Good for what you got going on. Like you're a man, you sitting on $100 million empire, and you allow somebody who is barely old enough to drink to be in your circle and disrupt your life to the extent where you're losing advertisers, you're losing sponsors, people starting to separate themselves from them. It's just was a situation that really could have been avoidable, but it's also a situation where, because the way that Shannon Sharpe, he conducts himself, that it is not it's not surprising that, you know, he found himself in this situation. And, you know, I don't know. I think that, you know, by the time you get 56 years old, you know, like some of that college type behavior and that bachelor lifestyle stuff, man, that should have long gone been out of his system, you know. And it just shows like a lack of wisdom, you know. Like I said, the statements that Ryan Clark said, you know, some of the things like with the text message, or what was that? The Instagram that went live and all that stuff. And he, you know, then he made a big joke out of that. And then they started selling those I don't know, those pills or something that, you know, to help men out. You know, it was just a whole goofy situation. And then you, like I said, for somebody that's in his mid-50s, act like he's still in high school, you know, because even if you don't even want people to act like that in college, like high school, yeah, but college, you can't expect that from a man that's in college and beyond, you know. And Shannon Sharpe, like I said, in his 50s. And yeah, I think Ryan Clark, and he didn't hold back, you know, he didn't really go, you know, throw Shannon under the bus, because there is still a chance that Shannon may be you know, he could be vindicated from these charges. But he's basically going on what Shannon Sharpe has presented, you know, publicly himself, you know. And so, but it still remains, you know, like, all right, it'll come out, you know, whether these are true or not, whether these charges are true or not. But this is not a situation that a 50-something-year-old man, you know, well, this young lady was 19, 29, or 39. You got to use more, you know, you got to be more careful about who you bring into your circle. So that's, you know, like I said, still all Shannon Sharpe's doing. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.